My brother, yeah. My brother, yeah. My brother, yeah. My brother, yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Hooper, your host, one of them brothers from Inglewood podcast, coming to you live and direct once again. I want to say thank you for your encouraging words, for all your support, for the comments that you make, for all of the things that you have done thus far. It is a pleasure and a privilege to come to you live, in the field, in the studio, wherever we might be recording fresh and new content. And I'm going to ask if you would like, subscribe, share, and ring the notification button so that you will be abreast as to when we're airing new content. This is an interesting topic. I talked about it a couple of days ago. I told you guys that I might do a part 2, and here we are to present that content for you. I want to talk again about personality disorders. I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm definitely not a medical doctor, and I'm not a therapist, clinical therapist at that. But I do have some experience in my own personal life, and I've talked to enough people to sort of get the data and also follow up on some research as it relates to some situations that have occurred and may have been present in your life as we begin to talk about this topic. What's been really interesting for me is when you start experiencing certain things with certain people in certain situations, and you start to take a look at it, you kind of backtrack and you reevaluate and you sort of go through the progression of how did we get to this particular place in this interaction. And I think there is a strong possibility of not having chemistry with the person, not being compatible, and timing. I think timing has a lot to do with interaction, especially on more of a personal, romantic, or even social level. You could be at a basketball event or some type of sporting event. You could be at a musical concert, or you can just be fellowshipping at a function at someone's home, and where there's a lot of people. You meet different ones and you encounter different situations. And it's not always about a hookup. It's not always about men pursuing women romantically and vice versa. It could just be on a friendship basis, some type of connection that you might have through business or social academic interests. Whatever it might be, your kids may go to the same school or have attended the same college. I don't know what that interaction might be for you, but I think you start to pick up on certain things that may be good for you and may not be good for you. And I just thought it was very important for us to have a conversation pertaining to personality conflict, personality disorders, chemistry, compatibility, however you would like to look at it. I kind of want to deal with the fact that we have these disparities. And since the time of, or I'll just say since the beginning of time, men and women have been trying to coexist, trying to understand each other, and trying to co-parent, and whatever those things might bring, we were trying to do it together as family members, as spouses, as partners, as lovers, as friends. We've always found ourselves trying to mesh with someone else. And when I think about the conversations that I've had lately pertaining to not getting along with certain individuals, or not, clicking at work in your career, supervisors, co-workers, community that your job might be in. It's really deeper than some of the things we consider as surface things. And I'll use this as a prime example. We know that there is a huge problem with urban Americans of different ethnicities trying to work together, trying to do business together, trying to get something going as a unit. I like to go as far as saying it's been difficult for African Americans to work together, to support one another, to be excited and celebrate one another, and just get things moving forward. We've had a serious issue down through the years, over a long period of time. We're sort of known for not being able to work together. And I'm not saying that African Americans are the only race of people who have this type of conflict or this type of issue. I'm sure it happens in all races, but I'm speaking to our race because that's who I represent. I'm an Afro-American male, and I've been an entrepreneur since I can remember. I've been an entrepreneur as a young adult up until this stage of my life. And so I know what it takes. I know what it looks like. I know what the experience is doing business with one another. And so I think a lot of times it's a cultural, or it might even be a historical situation that stemmed from childhood. Maybe it stemmed from ancestry. I don't know exactly how to pinpoint it, but from the premise of seeing it happen in my few years of living, I can say that it started way back in my ancestry. There were serious situations that we know in history, and through learning our history through our parents and through our grandparents, what type of atrocities were committed against our people, what type of trauma we went through, and what type of oppression and challenges that we had to face and are facing today. We have police brutality, we have crimes, murders committed by law enforcement. They don't want to call it murder, but in a lot of these past events, it has been murder. And it's just a sad commentary, but when we unveil the truth of the matter and we go a little bit deeper, we find out that there is a lot of unresolved issues. There's conflict, there's chaotic situations that have occurred and are occurring in our present life. And so now we're forced to get along, we're forced to gel and kind of unite under one banner, and a lot of these issues haven't been resolved. So you're putting people together, or you're expecting people to come together in unison and have success, but you've never addressed the problem. You've never addressed those issues that have been sort of suppressed and not talked about. But then there are triggers in people's lives, and sometimes certain things will bring those things from the surface or from beneath the surface, and now you have a full-blown chaotic moment. And I just think that those are the things that we need to talk about. I'll use relationships from a romantic standpoint. You meet people, in the streets, you meet people at work, you meet people in different communities, different settings, at different events. And it seemed as though most people are on the defensive. You're categorized, I would say you're stereotyped by the way you dress, by the way you look, the car you drive. You may not even be in a personal vehicle. You might be Ubering, or you might be using public transportation. And it seems as though people form a perception and an idea about you, and they don't even know you. Or you might resemble someone, or you might remind that situation and scenario might remind them of something that they went through, and that becomes a trigger. And it's like you don't know anything about what they went through. You don't know the people that were involved. You don't even know when it happened. But out of that person's lens, they see you from the perspective of whatever it is they went through. It could be negative, it could be positive. I remember meeting someone at church, and we were at a funeral. We were at a situation where we were celebrating and supporting a family who lost a dear loved one. And so in that setting, there were, oh my goodness, there were hundreds of people celebrating the life of this particular person. So we were gathered, outside of the facility, and we were all talking and trying to figure out who was riding with who was going to go to the repast, and where the repast was, and all of those different things. And, I was approached by someone who thought they knew me, and they proceeded to ask me who I was and where did we know each other from. And I had never seen this person a day in my life. I didn't know where they thought they knew me from or how they thought they knew me. But, I have a pretty good memory. I'm good with faces. I'm even good with names. But this person just did not resemble anybody that I thought I knew. But they were adamant about it. And so we began to talk, and we were just kind of, with some other people in that setting that actually they knew that person. And so we were all just kind of talking. And at the end of the day, I got a business card. I was asked to give them a call. I ended up doing that, and everything, it was kosher. It went cool. But as time went on, we were pretty much, we didn't really know the same people. We knew that same person, but we didn't really have a similar background. So I was on one side of the industry, they were on the other side of the industry, but it proved to be that they were extremely successful, and that things in their world sort of happened a certain way. They were kind of used to a certain regimen, a certain class of, people, or, we just came from a little bit different background. However, we didn't know each other. So in that interim of time, trying to get to know each other, it just came to a screeching halt. I don't know if I said something that triggered them, or maybe if they evaluated me and immediately was like, this is not going to be a good fit, whatever the case may be. So the communication just stopped. It just ended. I was reaching out here and there, wasn't getting any responses. And I started thinking to myself, like, what did I do? And then I started to think, well, what didn't I do? And sometimes that becomes weighty for us. That becomes like a self-evaluating moment, and we start to be critical of ourselves. Now, that happens for me. I can't speak for other people. Some people may spin it a different way. Some people may be upset with whomever it was that shunned them or just shut them down in that way. I just immediately started to evaluate me. I started to look at myself and start backtracking like, okay, did I miss something? Did I do something that may have offended the person? Or, so I just kind of go back to me. And I'm very confident in myself. I don't have a low self-esteem. I don't have any doubt about who I am. I love who I am. I love myself. So it wasn't as if I was evaluating myself from the standpoint of if I was good enough or if I had the right potential. I just started to evaluate myself, meaning I didn't want to be found offensive. I didn't want to look back and say, oh, I said this. Oh, that must have offended the person. And so that's why I did the evaluation. I can handle rejection. Most men have egos. Most of us are very intimidated when it comes to our feelings and being embarrassed or put on the spot. I don't think like that. Me personally, I can handle rejection. If someone or doesn't want to deal with me, or if a job that I interviewed for and I didn't get the job and I'm turned down, I'm gonna keep going. That's just me. I'm just a go-getter. I don't lose confidence easily. But I hate that I took so long just to make that point. But what I'm saying is, I don't know what the person was going through. I don't know what they were dealing with. I don't even know what their evaluation process was. I don't know how we ended up not even speaking and no explanation, no communication whatsoever. And I learned that a lot of people operate this way. They don't want any closure. They're really runners. These people evade, deflect, avoid, and they escape real moments in their life. And to me, that's not normal. And why do I say that that's not normal? Because I believe we all deserve some courtesy, some form of not so much an explanation, but I think if you're dealing with a person or you're dealing with something, you should be willing to communicate and at least like my former pastor would say, leave the right way. There's a right way to do everything. And I think a lot of us fail to understand that we have a track record. When we look back at the way we do things, business, relationships, whatever interaction we might have with other people, whether we're parenting, co-parenting, whether we're being a good sibling, a good nephew, a good niece, there's a certain way that we do things in a way of respect. I can hear somebody saying now, well, they disrespected me. They don't deserve the courtesy. They don't deserve, they stole from me, or they lied to me, or, I'm just done with them. They're trifling. They're, okay, I get all that. So if they're not actually trying to take your life, trying to physically harm you, or put your freedom in jeopardy, I still believe that we should have some moment in time where we can express ourselves and say, and now I'm not dealing with you anymore. I don't want to talk. I don't want to text. I don't want to see you. I just believe that it's merited. And sometimes it's hard to get people to understand that because they're so used to just closing the door with no explanation. I think in my life, I think I've been the one who has been willing to actually talk about a situation, reach a resolve, not saying reach an agreement because people are not going to always agree with you, but we can at least share our sides and views of a situation. And I think if we do more of that, we'll have more healthy relationships moving forward. A lot of people are not experiencing quality relationships with others because they have so much baggage and so much junk in their past to where they're just used to shifting it and reorganizing it and replacing it and leaving it and getting more facilities to store the stuff in instead of just making a clean sweep and start cleaning those things up and talking about those things. Personality disorders are usually diagnosed from a clinical standpoint where, you know, medicine may be prescribed and a complete examination is done to where now you're finding out that these are not only rapid thoughts, but various thoughts that people are trying to process in their head. And not trying to be a therapist, I just think that sometimes we need to tap into better resources so that we can find that median to resolve. How can we get to resolve? Can this be resolved? I hear a lot of people talk about mental illness and how it's a disease. And then I hear on the religious spectrum that people refer to mental illness as a demonic manifestation, that people are actually possessed or demonized by certain types of spirits and behaviors. And all of it has validity. I'm not going to go deep into the spiritual warfare that we experience in everyday life, in our personal life, in atmospheres and regions that we occupy, places that we go. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but you have to understand that there are spiritual attacks that are launched against us every day. There are regions where there's a high volume of spiritual, I would say, demonic activity. You cannot say that demons aren't real. You cannot say that demonic activity is not, or murder and all these gruesome crimes and this these heinous crimes are committed is not demonstrative, demonic, evil. It really is. And so certain regions that we occupy has a higher volume of demon activity. I could speak of certain regions now that you probably would be like, oh, here we go, conspiracy theory. But I've always felt a certain way about Hollywood. I feel a certain way about some areas in South Central where there has been a serious epidemic of drug abuse, alcoholism, violence, murder, theft. There is just a higher anticipation of certain types of activity in certain regions. Now, that doesn't mean that things don't happen in Beverly Hills. There's a lot of demonic activity in Beverly Hills. You got greed, you got You got people who cheat, who lie, who steal. You have people that are they don't have any compassion. They're insecure. They're just different forms of activity in certain regions of the world, and no one can persuade me to believe any different. And so most people, they won't say that they're religious, and they'll say that they're spiritual, but yet they don't want to deal with negative spirituality. So if you're spiritual but you don't believe in demonic activity, or you don't believe in spiritual warfare, then how spiritual are you? You know, some people believe in evolution. Some people believe in Scientology, which is a higher realm of evolution and positive confession and mind mind control. But I'm not here to bash anyone in specific. I'm not here to judge anyone or condemn anyone. I have no authority to do that. I have no final decision on anyone and their life. All I'm saying is that personality disorders really derive from our mental capacity, the thought process, and the trauma that we have experienced in everyday life. I don't know what the trauma might be in your life. I don't know what it is that you had to go through, what you had to endure. But I guarantee you, if you sit down and you start interviewing people who are incarcerated, who have been incarcerated, if you interview people who have committed certain heinous crimes and have become angry and what we would call bipolar and things of that nature, you will begin to see the history behind their manifestations. It started somewhere. Could have started in infancy. It could have started as a toddler. It could have started in early adolescence. It could have started in adulthood. It could derive from what type of parenting they were getting, what type of situations they had to endure. Poverty. Poverty is a spirit. Poverty is not just a lack of resources, a lack of money. It's not just being poor. It's a spirit of poverty. There is a huge difference in not having money, but having the ability to get a job, to earn, getting laid off and then getting a new job. That's not, a comfortable thing, but that is not considered poverty. When you lose your job, that doesn't make you impoverished. Now, if you don't get another job, if you fail to go out and earn again, you will soon experience poverty, and that spirit is going to attach itself to you. It's going to attack you until you do something about it. So there are many explanations as to why people have these personality disorders and the conflict that we all have in our thought process. There are times when we are fatigued. We're just tired. And when we get tired, and medically, any physician, any doctor will tell you, when you get physically tired and exhausted, and you're really at a low point of energy, a lot of things are affected in your body, in your mind. Your mind is going 100 miles an hour in a different direction. Now your thought process is sketchy. You make decisions when you're that way. You're going to end up making a poor decision. If you go into a market or eatery and you're famished, you're just super hungry, you have a tendency to purchase things that you don't need, or you tend to eat more than you can actually consume. But in your mind, you're just hungry, hungry, hungry. So what am I really saying? I'm saying that we have to delve deeper in these personality conflicts. We have to do more research on personality disorders and see whether or not we have these things going on in our life, or the people that we're dealing with may have these things going on in their life, and we can better assess how we interact with them. We need to go a lot deeper, because I'm gonna be honest, if you do a poll and out of 10 people, if you ask them, I guarantee you 7 of those people are single. It might be 8 people out of 10 that are just absolutely single. They're not seeing anyone. They don't have any specific relationship or commitment that they're in, and it seems to be the normal. It seems as though most people like what they consider their freedom, their independence, and it has changed the dynamic of the family 101%. And so we're gonna have to find out, hey, what can we do to curb this situation and be more of a help to how this thing can go moving forward. So that's all I have on personality disorders. I want to say thank you for sitting, sharing, writing, listening, wherever you might be listening to this podcast. I want to say thank you. And like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification button. This episode is coming to a stop, and we look forward to coming back to being with you really, really soon. Take care. Peace.